Yes. Welcome back to episode 325 of the Purple Rain Podcast. The Asa Jackson, Kadar Holman, Chris Carr episode of the Purple Rain Podcast. Thank you for coming through to this episode on this lovely Thursday evening. We have a lot to talk about. Good news and bad news. Unfortunately, more bad than good. But first and foremost, you can follow us on Instagram at the Purple Rain Podcast. The guy over there, Sutton, on Instagram or on X at SuttonDef. Me, Instagram, SimplyAS10.prod, X, SimplyAS10, right there in the middle at Lamarszn on Instagram from the Charm City Sideline Podcast. So welcome in. Sutton, got to ask you first and foremost, how's the week going? How are we feeling?
Feeling good, like we mentioned, football is officially back. I see some people ringing it off in the chat here already. I mean, we got the Hall of Fame game tonight, which you kind of got to take with a grain of salt because it's not like all the way, like starters, but it's something. The visual, the feels, the vibes are back. So I'm feeling vibey. Hopefully you guys are feeling the same. Hopefully everybody in the chat is feeling good tonight as well. But like my guy Alex mentioned, we do have a special guest, a very, very special guest here from the Charm City Sideline Podcast. We got a guy Bradley, aka Lamarszn. I know a lot of you guys know follow him on Instagram. He's got thousands of followers on there. I've been following him for years and keeping up with Ravens news. Just unbeknownst to me, he's actually a really cool dude who has his own podcast, and he's had me on his podcast before multiple times. So had to return the favor, and here he is. We already got some people in the chat giving you a shout out. Chris says Charm City 2. Yay. Yes. We got part of the Charm City Sideline Podcast, at least a third of it in the house tonight. We got RJ Ori in here. He says, yes, sir, baby. We live. Cannot wait to hear you guys and can't wait to be in the stadium on Sunday. Hey, man, shout out to you for being there, man. Let's see. We got RTV in the house as Ravens flock all the way from LA. What's going on, RTV? Appreciate you checking in from the West Coast. Welcome in. Absolutely. We got Dre in the house as what's up, Purple Rain Gang? What's going on, Dre? We got Taquan in here. What's going on, Taquan? We got Mod Roosh, that is to you. Says finally some football back tonight and gives a shout out to the Rain Gang. As you guys get in here, make sure you sound off in the comments in the chat section, whether you're watching on X or whether you're watching on YouTube. We appreciate you either way. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel. If you are watching on YouTube, that would be greatly appreciated. So guys, there's a lot of things that we can really touch on when it comes to, the Ravens and the current state of the Ravens. But I think that it's only right that we start the episode off by talking about the biggest news of the week coming out of Ravens camp. And it's about Isaiah Likely, right? Isaiah Likely is going to be out 6 to 8 weeks is the timetable. It's very unfortunate. I think it happened on Tuesday, I want to say. He was in a one-on-one rep with Sanusi Kane, came down and ended up breaking his foot. He was kind of yelling in pain and things like that, kind of slamming the ground like most athletes do when they know something's really wrong or there's an injury imminent. So very bad news that you don't want to hear there. But John Harbaugh did speak on Isaiah Likely and his status, and you can kind of hear his sentiment here. Hold on 1 second.
I think the timeline I saw actually was accurate on the timeline that was reported. So we got a shot to get him back there right away early. We'll see. So that's the good news. It was early in camp, and it's not one of those major type of deals. So, but it's something. It's multiple weeks.
Yeah. 6 to 8 weeks. I see you post a question here. Will we struggle? We'll talk about it. First reaction, I'll go first. I was hurt when I saw it. You see the reports come out at the end of the day saying he went down. I thought worst case scenario, but at the same time they said he limped back the sideline. And I get it. Why have him walk to the ramp? Cart him back there and he limped off. So that was good news for me. Not the worst news in the world. I'll be honest with you. If he misses a couple of games, so be it. Rather have him, for the back end of the season than the beginning. So, all in all, I'll take it. Good news considering, what it could have been.
Yeah. First of all, I appreciate you guys for having me on. I'm excited to be here. This was Tuesday. I think you guys said one of those situations where right away you're hoping it's not a torn Achilles. When you see it's a lower leg, maybe an ankle. So at first I was in a bad mood for about half an hour. I don't know about you guys, just thinking Likely's out for the season. I'm usually pretty pessimistic with injuries. But I saw one of those TikTok, fantasy doctors sort of make a video about it. and it's most likely a pseudo-Jones fracture, which is sort of that, outside bone of your foot. It's usually that surgery where you have to have a screw in your foot, which is not ideal. I saw something that the average tight end recovery time for this injury is about 8.7 weeks. So, let's say it takes him 9 weeks. I think that sets you out about, week 5 return to the Texans. I would definitely, shy on the side of he should be 100% for a week or two before he even plays. That's how I would sort of go about it. You don't need to rush him back. And also it's notable that the Ravens have a week 7 bye. So if you want to hold him out really far, make sure he's good. That could be a good spot, or get him back week 5, week 6, and he has another week of rest to sort of gear up for the rest of the season.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. And I did not know that it was, classified as most likely being a pseudo Jones fracture, which is an 8-week timetable of when he could potentially come back. I know when this injury first occurred, I was thinking to myself, like, okay, is he going to be available for week 1? You know what I mean? Against the Bills. And I think that it's kind of like a foregone conclusion right now that he will not be back for week 1, week 2. My second prediction was probably debuting against the Lions on Monday Night Football in week 3. But now it seems like that might be unlikely as well, So we're possibly looking at, the Ravens just kind of throwing them on IR to start the season, just 4 games outright, and then we'll see how it is by week 5. And who was week 5 for us? It's Houston, isn't it? I want to say.
Mm.
Yeah. So like maybe he'll come back against Houston. It just depends on where he's at. Again, like you said, if he is not 100% for 7 to 14 days, that little buffer period, don't throw him in there. Don't force him in there. At the end of the day, I do believe that Isaiah Likely, and this kind of goes to the impact question, like how much will this impact the offense? I do believe that Isaiah Likely is more of a luxury, dare I say, on this offense than an absolute necessity, right? I've seen a lot of talk about Mark Andrews this week and like, okay, here we go again. We're going to rely on regular season Mark Andrews, which is an amazing player, an amazing tight end, literally tight end 1, especially when it came to touchdowns last season. But that's the reason why I think that Isaiah Likely is more of a luxury. So for that reason, don't rush him back. You know what I mean? We're going to need him at the end of the day. We know what the Ravens are. We know what the Ravens do in the regular season, especially September and October, with the exception of last year dropping those first 2 games, right? That early season Lamar, especially like early season, like regular season Lamar, is absolutely scary. It's insane. So I don't think that we'll necessarily need him, you know what I mean, like to win some of these games. Now, what I will say, before I pass it back to you, Alex, what I will say, and I mentioned this on a stream the other day, week 1 last year against the Chiefs, right? Isaiah Likely had 12 targets for 9 catches, 111 yards, and a touchdown. He was Lamar Jackson's number 1 target on that night against the Chiefs when it mattered the most, even as well. On that very last drive, he went to Likely over and over and over again. So I don't want to, understate Likely's impact on this team and on this offense, but at the same time, I do feel like we have other guys, Mark Andrews, who will be able to step up and other guys like that. But Alex, go ahead and take it away.
Yeah, I mean, you're right there. He had a big week 1, but I'm going to look at the games after it. 26 yards, 4 yards, 26 yards, 13 yards. He didn't really see a lot of targets until the end of the season. So if we're going to be honest, Mark Andrews was still dealing with whatever he dealt with, that car accident that he had last year. I don't even know what that was, but it obviously impacted him the first month of the year. It took him till week 5, I think, to get a touchdown, which is not like him. No pun intended, unfortunately. But we'll miss him, yes, but I think I'm agreeing with you. He is a luxury to have. But come playoff time, I know who I want as my tight end. If you're picking up what I'm putting down, we're fine with Mark Andrews. I think he's gotten way too much disrespect I've seen recently. And I get it in the playoffs. If we're talking strictly regular season, he to me is a second best tight end in the league right now. I'm just gonna put that out there, regular season wise. So we're not gonna miss a beat, but in those close games it'll be nice to have Likely, and he will be missed. I say throw him on the IR. He has to miss 4 games minimum. And if you have to wait till the bye, you wait till the bye. You don't need to rush him back early because you've seen what that's done to guys. Look at Marlon Humphrey in 2023. He got hurt, I believe, around this time, missed the first 4 games, and was a shell of himself the whole year. Let him get healthy because he will be an X factor come playoff time.
Good point. Bradley, before we throw it back to you, we do have a super chat donation here. This one's coming from Jing, dropping the 5-piece in the chat. Big shout out to Jing. Thank you so much for donating to PRP. Jing says, avid listener and new to the live chat. Shout out to my friends in the live chat. Tila, D-Wiz, Chris M, and Tanja. Love the show, guys. Great job, y'all. Thank you so much making it rain here on episode 325 of PRP. We truly do appreciate it. Now, one thing I wanted to add, I want to ask both of you guys this before we leave the Isaiah Likely topic. When it comes to the timetable of him returning, right? You look at the first 4-game stretch. You've got Bills week 1. You've got Browns week 2. You've got Lions week 3 and Chiefs week 4. If they come out of that 4-week stretch 2-2, let's just say hypothetically speaking, they come out of that 4-week stretch 2-2. We're getting ready to take on the Texans and then the Rams. I want to say is right after them, right? If Isaiah Likely is kind of reported to, he's 90%, you know what I mean? Like, would you want them to trot him out there to kind of like try to save the season? Because again, those 2 games there, the Texans and the Rams, those are probably at that point in the season 2 of our harder games for the remainder of the schedule, if I'm being honest with you. So would you want to bring him back if the Ravens were hypothetically speaking 2-2 coming out of that 4-game stretch to start the season?
I still don't think I would. 2-2, because when I look at the schedule, and Sutton, we actually did the schedule release with you on our pod, and looking at those first 6 games, we were like, how is this possible? Like, how do we have these 6 games? I've always looked at it like, if you're 4-2 at the bye, I think that's really, really good. And I think if you're 2-2 after those first 4 games, I think you can beat both the Texans and the Rams. I'd say my biggest 2 concerns are Bills and Chiefs. I'm not too concerned about playing the Lions week 3. I think out of, let's exclude the Browns here. I think the Lions might be the game I feel the most confident about out of all 5 of those. So, I think 4-2 is ideal. I really don't think, unless you're 1-3, maybe, I really want to hold Likely off until he's been 100%, been feeling 100% for, like I said, at least a week.
Yeah. That he's right there. I mean, you look at it, the Lions, like I said, I'm calling for a regression for them. You don't, lose both your coordinators. You're gonna take a step back. The Browns are the Browns. If you're 2-2, that's where we were last year, and those 2 losses are much respectable than losing to Gardner Minshew at home, if we're just going to be completely honest. And as training camp's going on, I'm looking at our schedule. Some of these games I'm looking at, the Dolphins, their whole secondary is hurt. The Vikings, J.J. McCarthy has not looked the best in training camp. So if that, continues to go on, the schedule is looking a little bit more favorable now. But I'm all for just keeping him out. We have Kolar, who I think is going to shock some people this year. Not, put up 500 yards, but blocking wise, he'll make a couple of clutch catches, a couple of touchdowns. He can handle his business, and we can, get a tight end off the street, it feels like, and make him into a pretty damn good role player. Your mic's muted.
Hold on, I'm muted.
Yeah.
Speaking on the topic of tight ends really quick, like sticking there, you talk about Charlie Kolar. Alex, me and you, we talk about Charlie a lot on this podcast. I think a couple of pods ago, we talked about the over-under for the amount of touchdowns that we think Charlie Kolar is going to score this season. What did we put that line at? Did we put it at like
2.5?
What did you put it at? 2.5?
2.5.
Yeah.
Okay. Bradley, what do you think? Charlie Kolar over or under 2.5 touchdowns in the regular season?
I think with the Likely injury, I'll go over. I think maybe before the Likely injury, I'd say he catches 1 or 2. I think as long as, let's say, Likely misses the first 4 games, I think Likely will catch 1, maybe 2 touchdowns, and then he's got the rest of the year to get 1 more. So I think he'll probably finish with 3, maybe 4 on the year.
Yeah. Alex, what was your justification for it again?
I mean, I said over. I think he hit it over last year as well. The couple of blowout games he had, one against the Bengals. I know. I know I think he had 3 last year. I want to say. Yeah. Other 2 are escaping my mind, but we just scored a lot of touchdowns last year. Yeah. But now with this, I think he'll hit it.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, and I think so too. Before I get to my reasoning, we do have another super chat donation. This one's coming from D-Wiz. What's going on, brother? Appreciate you for coming through, dropping the 5-piece in the chat on this episode 325 of PRP, making it rain here on the Purple Rain Podcast. Says, peace, bros, peace. Always good content and chatter in here. Keep up the good work. Squawk present. Thank you, brother. We appreciate that, man. Yeah, and we're gonna keep it up. We're gonna keep it up here. Let me get back to my Charlie Kolar thing. So I think that again, with Isaiah Likely being held out a couple of weeks, I do think that Charlie Kolar, especially in the red zone, is going to be more dangerous than ever. He's one of those players who is going to get kind of lost in the sauce, lost in translation in the midst of a Rashad Bateman, a Zay Flowers, a Mark Andrews, right? A DeAndre Hopkins now, a Derrick Henry, running threat, and then also Lamar Jackson rushing threat. No one's going to be paying attention to a Charlie Kolar. I could see him. I think Alex, you mentioned it on the last episode of the show. Like, we could run one of those plays where we literally like just run to one side of the field. We snap the ball, run to one side of the field. You know what I mean? Everybody follows Lamar Jackson. Everybody's looking at his eyes. Charlie Kolar leaks out the back and, gets it right there to him. Same thing. They drew up a similar play for Isaiah Likely a couple of years ago against the Texans in the playoffs, actually. So I could totally see that happening with Charlie Kolar. So I will also take the over 2.5 touchdowns for Mr. Kolar on the season. D-Wiz here says Kolar is going to get freaky. I mean, I don't doubt it. I don't doubt it, man. And he also, Charlie Kolar actually spoke up yesterday at after camp, and he was saying, basically defending Mark Andrews vehemently. You know what I mean? Like, he was saying, like, he does not like how personal some people get, and the lengths that some people take, like the Mark Andrews slander because of what happened in the playoffs. Where do you guys stand? And Bradley, I want to come to you first on this one. Where do you stand on Mark Andrews right now? Like, do you trust him? Like, what is your current assessment of Mark Andrews?
So Zach and I have had some arguments about this, especially off air. Zach's my co-host on Charm City Sideline. Zach's a big Andrews guy, and it's not so much that I'm anti-Andrews, but I've been, very high on Likely starting his rookie year, probably more than most. Maybe I was a little too high on him at first. But with Andrews, I just feel like it's purely, Alex, you subtly mentioned this at the beginning of the show. I purely think it's a playoff thing. I believe it's a 21% drop percentage in the playoffs, which is just that's not okay at all. That's probably better than Brashad Perriman's drop percentage as a receiver in a Ravens uniform. But I mean, occasionally he does have, I think something that some people don't admit about Andrews is he does occasionally, even in the regular season, have the uncharacteristic drop that you usually wouldn't see Likely drop that pass, or maybe another, receiver, now that the Ravens have a good receiving core, drop that pass. But I mean, what do you have? 11 touchdowns last year. I mean, the statistics are undeniable. I mean, the touchdown he had against the Eagles last year was just beautiful. Like, sometimes he has one of the best hands catches you'll ever see. And obviously Lamar loves him. They came into the league together. I do think, maybe Flowers has overtaken Lamar's number one target now, but I think Lamar really trusts Andrews, and I think he feels a little safer and a little more composed maybe when Andrews is on the field, especially on third down situations.
Yeah, totally agree there. I mean, go ahead, Alex.
Oh, as for Mark, like, I'm staring at a signed photo I have right next to my finger. It's tough with him. Like, I'm riding with him. But to me, I'm gonna judge him by how much money you're making and his cap hit. Like, that kind of can't go, unspoken. It's like 13 mil, 14 mil, and in the biggest games, I'm expecting you to make those plays. And it comes to a time, we're not a team like the Texans who, they're getting the playoffs and not advancing. Like, we're a team that we're Super Bowl or nothing at this point. I don't care what John Harbaugh says. That's how us fans feel, and I think we have every right to feel that way. I need you to be making these plays. Like I said, I don't know why you're running backwards. You've never made that play in your life, running backwards, Mark, and you fumbled the ball. You dropped the 2-point conversion, which, the Bills could have went down the field and won the game. Cool. It's happened time and time again in the playoffs. 2019, he tips it because he can't hold it in. Kevin Byard picks it off. I think 2020, he actually had a couple of drops against the Titans. Thankfully won that game. Even in 22, I think when Lamar was hurt, Roman ran that stupid QB sneak and Andrews couldn't get the first down. Like, it's kind of been a known thing with him. So in the regular season, I know what I'm gonna get. I'm gonna get an absolute baller. But it once again comes down to the games that matter, and that's the playoffs. So I'm riding with them. So you got to prove me wrong. But in the playoffs, man, we know Likely's going to show up. He has more playoff touchdowns than Andrews.
Yeah, it's purely mental when it comes to Mark Andrews, and honestly, this Ravens team when it comes to the month of January. But and you mentioned Isaiah Likely having more touchdowns than Mark Andrews in the postseason, which is true, crazy enough. But I think if the Ravens do make the playoffs, and I'm going to knock on wood because, you know,
Yeah.
if the Ravens do make the playoffs this season, I think that is going to be paramount to manufacture Mark Andrews drives, to manufacture a Mark Andrews touchdown, just to kind of get that monkey off of his back. You know what I mean? Because like going into these playoff games, knowing that like, hey, look, I've never played particularly well in January. I mean, in the Bills game, he had 5 catches for like, I think like 63 or 67 something yards, something like that, right? Not a terrible game. No touchdowns, obviously, but there was the big drop at the end, and then there was the fumble that completely took the wind out of the Ravens' sails when they were really leaning on the Bills. Right, I went back and watched that game, rewatched that game 2 days ago. The Bills were reeling. They were reeling. You guys remember that drive where I
Yeah.
think the Ravens rushed for like 70 rushing yards, and they just bulldozed their way down the field, and the Bills literally looked like they did not have an answer. Obviously, the Ravens kept scratching and clawing. Lamar Jackson goes over the middle to Mark Andrews for like a 20-yard pickup. And like you said, Alex said it himself. Like, you've never pulled that move before. What are you doing? Like, you have daylight right in front of you. Like, all he had to do was get north, but he wanted to be Zay Flowers or Isaiah Likely, something of the like. And he cuts back, and Terrell Bernard makes a beautiful, what is a basketball steal, honestly. Like, you pluck it out from one side, and then you go get it from the other side. Just glorious to watch. I mean, honestly, from the Bills fans' perspective, but obviously horrendous for the Ravens. But again, like I said, I say all that to say you have to manufacture opportunities for Mark Andrews to get his confidence going in the playoffs. I think that's going to be a really, really big focus come January. Again, knocking on wood, if the Ravens are to make it, right? So let me see what you guys are saying here in the chat. D-Wiz chiming in says, was our red zone percentage up in 2024 or down? I want to say it was up. I want to say it was up. Maybe not by too much. It's been really, really up since the addition of Todd Monken. So the last 2 years, right? Yeah. I mean, the Ravens red zone offense has gone from 0 to hero. I can remember in the last waning years of Greg Roman, we were struggling to score 20 points, right? Now we get to the red zone. It's like, okay, who's going to score the touchdown this time? It's like we have the pick of the litter. Like, we're asking ourselves, like, who's going to score the touchdown? Not are we going to score the touchdown? You know, it's one of those things, and until we get to the playoffs, and then we start turning the ball over and yada yada, you know. But that's a different story. But yeah, I believe 2024 is a little bit better than 2023.
Yeah, I pulled it up. 23 was 62.1% in the red zone or touchdowns. 2024, 73.9.
Wow.
Number one.
Yeah. Yep. And then just for context, what was it the year prior to 2023? So 2022.
22.
Yeah.
So we were one last year, number one. We were number 7 in 2023, and in 2022, we were number 30.
Oh my goodness.
34%.
Yeah. It was a night and day difference between a Greg Roman offense and this new Todd Monken offense. That, man, I'm just so thankful that the Ravens were finally able to move on from Greg Roman. I mean, Ravens fans called for it for years, but they wanted to stick by him. Found themselves in year 6 of Lamar Jackson and finally moved on. And really, the offense hasn't looked back ever since. So hopefully they can continue their production, having, historic seasons, with Lamar Jackson at the helm, and then carrying that into the playoffs. But okay, guys, we've been talking for a minute now about tight ends, Isaiah Likely, Mark Andrews, and the like. But it's now time to get into some training camp talk. Real quick, we got over 60 people watching live right now. Thank y'all so much. Hello. Thank y'all so much for joining this episode 325 of the Purple Rain podcast. Again, we have our guest here, very special guest, Lamarszn from the Charm City Sideline Podcast, our good friend Bradley here. What's going on, Bradley? You still doing good over there?
Yeah, I'm doing good. Doing good.
All right, man. Let's keep it rolling. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and get into some training camp talk.
Yeah, so a lot has happened since last time we talked. Good and bad news with Ravens training camp. So I'm just going to start with today's practice. I don't know if it got canceled for fans. I saw some fans got canceled. I don't know if fans were there. So we had Jalen Armour-Davis and Bilal Kone return to practice today. We were missing Zay Flowers, Rashad Bateman, likely Emory Jones, so which is unfortunate. So a lot of the backup receivers were able to get some more touches. Nnamdi Madubuike had 2 batted balls at the line of scrimmage, including one that was almost intercepted by Teddy Buchanan. And then Broderick Washington has stacked several strong practices, which is good for our defensive line front. And these one-on-one drills, man. Jerry Alexander picked off Cooper Rush, And then Anthony Miller, the next play, got him back, was able to beat Jair Alexander. So good iron sharpening iron. And Malachi Starks, man, he's continued to look good. I've seen Zach Gore and Kyle Hamilton hype this man up like no other. So I'm expecting day one starter for him. Got me really excited. And apparently, like, Lamar Jackson made one of his most insane throws, I think, all camp today on a beautiful ball to Dayton Wade. So don't know if that video is out yet, but definitely looking forward to seeing that. And he also made another great throw, eluding pressure in the pocket, throwing across his body to find Mark Andrews. So that was just today. A lot of good news there. No I words, knock on wood. Offense, doing a lot better than they were yesterday. I heard yesterday was an absolute nightmare of a practice for the offense.
Yeah, and that seems to be the current assessment. The offense is a few steps behind the defense, but I know, Bradley, you're about to go ahead and say something. Again, like I was telling you before this stream, I really want to know, like, what's been standing out to you the most so far with this Ravens training camp?
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of things, right? I'd say, first of all, I mean, seeing that Mike Green's been pretty dominant early on is definitely good to see. Same with Malachi Starks, right? Obviously, if those two guys work out as many had as, two top 20 prospects in the draft, that'd be pretty insane for a team that's paying a quarterback a lot of money and some other players a lot of money. So that's first of all, just, those guys playing well. I'd say another thing is Jair Alexander. I think there's been a lot of talk and, even speculation in my mind and probably some other Ravens fans' mind of, has it been purely injuries or actually has his play actually fallen off a little bit? And, obviously you don't want to take too much away from training camp, but to me, from what I've seen and from what, Lamar's even said in his pressers, it seems like this is still the all-pro Jair Alexander, and we might have 3 top 15, top 20 corners on this defense. And, as long as he stays healthy, that could be the case. I also think, even Harbaugh, I'll say this about John Harbaugh. If a player's not playing well, or if he doesn't like a player or how he's performing, he's not going to mention him. And he mentioned Chidobe Awuzie a few days ago, I believe, playing very well. So, this cornerback depth is looking really good. And I think even if Jair misses a game or two or misses a month, I think Chidobe is going to play well. And, even TJ Tampa's been had a lot of talk in camp too about him playing well. And I feel this is kind of a rare feeling, but I think the coaching staff feels better about a lot of players than they normally do. I'm just sort of getting that vibe, especially about the secondary right now.
Yeah, and as you guys can see in the chat right there, Dre mentions that our secondary is ridiculously deep. Yeah, and I think that's going to be very, very important. It's going to bode well for our defense, not only with just having a low points per game differential, but forcing those turnovers like we were talking about. I think that's probably one of the biggest emphasis that this Ravens secondary is looking for right now, especially with Chuck Pagano coming back into the fold. I know that's a point of emphasis. Zach Orr's been talking about it. Marlon Humphrey has talked about it publicly on his social media pages. I think you're going to see a lot of coverage sacks. I think you're going to see a lot of quarterbacks getting frustrated because their guys can't create separation against the secondary. Granted, if they are that good, and you're going to see some forced throws and potentially some batted balls, interceptions, things like that. I love everything you said about the secondary, Bradley. But simply, you mentioned something early on when you were reading through the report. You mentioned Nnamdi Madubuike. That defensive line with Nnamdi Madubuike, beefing up a little bit more. He was coming off a year where he was one of the top 3 most double-teamed defensive tackles in the league, right? So he put on some more weight. And to hear that he is getting his hands up and high and batting down balls, that is huge. Can you imagine? And I don't know who necessarily, maybe it's the D-line coach who's kind of teaching him this. Like, hey, look, like if you're clogged up, if they're doubling you, get your hands up. You can still be productive. You can find ways to be productive, even if you're being doubled. I absolutely love that. It makes me think about Calais Campbell and what he was able to do when he, was batting down balls. It makes me think about Brent Urban, who is another guy that the Ravens, I heard, are talking to right now, might potentially be wanting to bring him back. Batting down balls at the line of scrimmage is it's just huge, man. I mean, you think about it. There was a batted down ball, I want to say, in the divisional loss against the Bills, right? You guys know it was that drive where Rashad Bateman gets all the way down to the 1. I think we get a penalty. We get backed up a little bit. It's like 3rd and something. And Lamar Jackson, he throws the football and it's tipped, right? And it falls to the ground. plays like that are huge. I mean, it's literally a loss of down for the other team. So I just think that that's really huge news. I didn't hear anybody, really talking about that today, but I think that was huge. Not mad at BK.
Yeah, and it is. And I'm going to kind of go to the offensive side. And I haven't talked about this guy a lot because I do have PTSD from, bigging up this receivers drafted, in day 3. That's Tez Walker. I've done this way too many times before. I think I was a huge James Prochet truther. I kind of still am. I don't know where it went wrong because he had like the most amazing college film you ever watch, but it's neither here nor there. Tez Walker's been making outrageous plays like on Nate Wiggins, on Jair Alexander, and it's every day. It's an everyday thing. Him and D Hop, I think, are probably having the best training camp out of our receivers. Bateman and Zay have missed time, but even when they were there, I'm seeing just plays of just Hopkins and then Tez making great plays. So, how do you guys feel about Tez Walker right now? I think you got to give him at least 5 targets in the preseason per game. Throw him the rock, see what he can do.
Yeah, I like that you brought that up, Alex, because there has been sort of a curse, right? And you go back to the Jaleel Scott, Jordan Lasley year. I believe they were the same year. And also we were a lot younger then. And I was even a little bit more naive about receivers and fourth round receivers back then. I in my whatever I was 13, 14-year-old mind, I thought Jaleel Scott was going to be the next Pro Bowler, right? So obviously with age, a little more maturity comes, but Tez Walker, catching the ball with his hands, right? Like that's something that even I'm not used to seeing from a day 3 Ravens receiver. The corner of the end zone catch against Wiggins was something that was really good to see for me. And also I think this might be overblown a little bit, but like he had one opportunity last year and he didn't botch it. You know what I mean? Like it was in the back of the end zone. He dragged his feet, made the catch in a situation, regular season game against the Giants. So I think that's that's really good news too. And speaking of the receivers, LaJohntay Wester's another guy that I was really excited about. I was not happy with the punt returning situation last year, so we'll see how he's able to do there. In the preseason, hopefully he'll sort of all we want to see is just catching the balls back there. It doesn't even need to make crazy returns or anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, I love everything that I'm hearing about Tez Walker as well, and LaJohntay Wester is another interesting talent on this team that we'll see how the Ravens choose to utilize him. But when it comes to Tez Walker, I think I told Alex the other day, man, it's just, the lack of production that's inevitable that's going to come from him, like the lack of production. It's going to be, you can chalk it up to just how many weapons the Ravens already have offensively. You know what I mean? There's just too many guys to go around. Rashad Bateman, Zay Flowers, not to mention they're paying DeAndre Hopkins to go out there and make an impact. It's just, love what I'm seeing from Tez, and it feels good to know that maybe the Ravens are turning over a new leaf or turning a corner, whatever you want to call it, when it comes to developing receivers that they draft. Maybe that's what it is, but I don't know. Hopefully the guy gets his opportunity. So let me actually shift gears to DeAndre Hopkins for a second, because he was mentioned as well. DeAndre Hopkins has been making plays all over camp, right? As we know. So I actually took the liberty yesterday. I went back and I watched his highlights from last year, and I actually forgot that he played with the Tennessee Titans for about half the season before going to Kansas City. But the guy still has that playmaking ability in him. It's like innate within DeAndre Hopkins. It's just like, you ever see a receiver that just like knows how to go the extra mile, knows how to twist, turn, contort his body the perfect way every single, like, on top of having amazing hands, right, and being really good at run after the catch. Of course, he's not as explosive as he was before. But T. Martin had something really interesting to say about DeAndre Hopkins today at the presser. He was basically saying in so many words that, D-Hop, he's making plays all over the field, and you normally don't see this type of trust from a veteran quarterback towards, a year one receiver. Of course, this is DeAndre Hopkins year one with Baltimore Ravens. So the chemistry hasn't been there yet, but like they're seeing it in real time. Like these guys are forming a bond already in training camp before the season even starts. And the thing that, and I want to throw it to you, Bradley, after this and get your assessment on D-Hop, but the thing that really kind of excites me about the whole D-Hop experiment here is that I think that we have a guy who perfectly fits Lamar Jackson's play style. right? The backyard football, extend the play, like get open. Okay, Lamar Jackson is scrambling around, so okay, you can break out of your route now, find some open grass, and just be ready and available for Lamar Jackson. That's the type of receiver that DeAndre Hopkins is. And so, like, I'm excited to see what D Hop has to offer. I think he's going to be more impactful on this offense than Odell Beckham Jr. was, a couple of years ago. That may be a hot take, but Bradley, what is your current assessment on DeAndre Hopkins, and what are your expectations for him in this Ravens offense in 2025?
Yeah, and real quick, I think some people don't really remember how good Odell was for the Ravens in 2023. He made a lot of clutch plays and had a couple nice games. DeAndre Hopkins, he's got 11 years in the league. What is it? 5 times Pro Bowler, 3-time All Pro. I'd say one of my early but few criticisms of Lamar's game in his early career was not throwing back shoulders and not throwing as much one-on-one balls as I wanted him to. And I think we saw that change a little bit, probably since Todd Monken got here. So maybe it wasn't a Lamar issue. Maybe it was a Greg Roman issue. But you touched on it, Sutton. I think DeAndre Hopkins could be a guy that, big time in the red zone, right? And, I think tight ends and wide receivers are sometimes, sort of separated, but I think Hopkins could be a guy that sort of fills the void of an Isaiah Likely maybe missing time if he's able to go up and get those jump balls that Lamar threw to Isaiah Likely a lot in the red zone and on scramble drill situations. So, I think one-on-one Hopkins, I think you got to go to him. He had 600 yards last year, so I'm assuming, Sutton, you think maybe another sort of similar 600 yard, maybe 700 yard season for him, because I believe Odell had around 500 for us. And yeah, he looked good on the Chiefs last year, but I think the past, I guess year and a half on Tennessee, I still think he looked really good. And, people are sort of calling him washed and everything. That was sort of a similar thing with Derrick Henry last year too. And we all saw how that turned out. So, I'm expecting a similar thing. So, and I'd say around, anywhere from 500 to 700 yards and a couple big time touchdowns.
Alex, what do we say? Over under 4.5 touchdowns for DeAndre Hopkins regular season?
Yes. 4.5.
Okay. Bradley, where do you stand on that? Over under 4.5 touchdowns for D Hop this season?
You guys have some good lines here. So he scored 4 in 10 games with the Chiefs last year. If you asked me to predict it, I'd probably say 5 with the Ravens. So I guess I have to go over. I just think he's going to make a few plays in the red zone, and then he's also probably going to have a couple, 30 plus yard touchdowns as well. So I think you got to go with the over there.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. The over. Let us know in the chat what you think. Do you think over or under DeAndre Hopkins 4.5 touchdowns? We got over 80 people watching live right now. Thank y'all so much for joining this episode 325 of PRP. But yeah, so let's go ahead and move right along here into some other news that came out of training camp. Alex, what was the other big thing?
Obviously, Mike Green. They were focusing a lot on him. I know Keaton Mitchell has been getting a lot of rave reviews. His speed is back, which is really, really good for this offense. TJ Tampa, he's been balling out, making a lot of good plays. Talked about that. I'm not too sure what else we're missing.
Now, when it comes to Keaton Mitchell, I do know that Todd Monken came out last week and basically said in so many words, like, hey, look, like this guy's gonna have to fight for snaps, right? Quite simply, point blank period. We got Derrick Henry, we got Justice Hill, who has consistently shown up and proven to be a viable running back too. What are our thoughts on the usage of Keaton Mitchell? Like, I think he's probably going to get a lot of his work maybe in like blowout games, things like that, and he's going to have to kind of show that speed there to kind of warrant him getting some more burn in the important moments of the game. But Bradley, what are your current thoughts on Keaton Mitchell?
Yeah, Keaton Mitchell's tough, looking at his stats last year, he had 400 rushing yards in 8 games. Honestly, that's probably more than I thought he had. And then obviously, the ACL tear. And I don't know if you guys saw the clip of him talking to Ryan Mink and Garrett Downing, but I think he said he tore his ACL, MCL, LCL, and his hamstring. So
Jeez.
Everything.
Not even the big 3. He tore 4 things, yeah. So obviously that's going to take a while. But even in my opinion, I think he looked better than you would expect late last year. I mean, I think it was the Texans game. He took a screen for a long ways. So that, that was good to see. In terms of usage, I don't know. And it did kind of surprise me a little bit that it was Monken that said that, right, about sort of getting Keaton Mitchell the ball. It's tough because you have Derrick Henry, obviously. And then I think I don't think you're going to play Keaton Mitchell on third down over Justice Hill, especially third and long, right? Like Justice Hill has turned into an exceptional pass blocker on third down. And I don't think you're going to, put Keaton Mitchell in there above Justice Hill. I think you maybe will see a lot of, in terms of Keaton Mitchell being on the field, I think you maybe will see a lot of 2 running back sets, whether it's Henry and Mitchell or Mitchell and Hill. I think you need to get Mitchell in motion a lot pre-snap. I think you need to get him the ball behind the line of scrimmage a lot, whether it's a run or a pass. But, there's only so many snaps a game. And we're talking about, over-unders with touchdowns and stuff with Kolar and Hopkins. And the Ravens just have a ton of weapons, and it's going to be tough, to get him enough touches for him to sort of be, a viable contender to this offense. But, I think he's going to have his splash plays, he's up to 22 miles an hour on the treadmill. So, I don't know. It's going to be tough to get him the ball a lot though, but I like what I see in camp so far.
Yeah, for sure. Keaton Mitchell, hopefully he can get some sort of production, during the regular season. But we do have another super chat donation. This one again coming from Jing. Thank you so much, Jing, for dropping the 5-piece in the chat. Big shout out to you. Round of applause for donating, making it rain again on this episode of PRP, the Purple Rain Podcast. Says, got a few more friends that came in the live chat. Shout out to Tisha, Travis, and Judge Dredd, Don C2. Giving a shout out to the Don, one of our Purple Rain patrons. Thank you so much, Jing. We appreciate you, everything you do here. We thank you for coming out tonight. Okay, so Tanja Bowman says here, and shout out to Tanja, longtime listener as well. Says Keaton was on the lounge. He said, I hope I can at least get 10 runs. But Justice Hill is elite in blitz pickup and being that receiver outlet for Lamar Jackson. Justice Hill was a third down merchant. She ain't lying there. She's not lying.
Merchant's crazy.
Yeah.
But like, how many times has this guy made a clutch play on third down when we really, really needed him and nobody expected the ball to go his way?
Yeah.
That's the thing. Like, Justice Hill is a dude at the end of the day. He does everything you ask him to do. Like she says, blitz pickup. You could throw it to him out in the flat. You can throw the screens. I remember that play against the Steelers, right? Where Lamar Jackson is scrambling around in the red zone. He's stepping up. He's stepping back. He's stepping up. He's stepping back. And Justice Hill, he becomes available for Lamar and he, hits him right in the numbers, obviously, and he just walks it in for a touchdown. A lot of that has to do with Lamar Jackson's ability to keep the play alive, but you got to have weapons that are willing and able to be available for you, and make it easier for your quarterback. And that's exactly what Justice Hill does. And yet another reason why it's going to be hard for Keaton Mitchell to get any play time, unfortunately.
I'm big on Keaton. I think they're gonna. Him and Western might be battling out for the kick and punt returner position. I think he broke off a long one last year against the Browns, the last game, I think. It's just him getting that speed back and have that training camp. It's going to be huge for him. I think we'll see it in the preseason. He'll make a couple of big plays or probably have a 30, 40-yard run, where somebody pushes him out because, they can't catch up and tackle him. So he'll make the 53-man roster. Now, how many runs he'll get, I'm not too sure, but I love that you still kind of keep him in there, throw him in there like you don't expect him to be and hand it off to him and he'll make you miss. Like the Seahawks game, that was still a close game when he made his debut and broke off a huge run. They weren't expecting that. So I'm hoping we can hit somebody else with that again this year, but it's going to be hard for him to, get a fair share of runs in this offense.
Yeah. And I think I made a mistake mispronouncing Tisha's name in the chat. Shout out to Tisha in the chat. Thank you for coming through, joining this episode of PRP. Did not mean to mispronounce your name if that's what I did, but thank you so much again for coming through. But yeah, so let's go ahead and get into some live news, right? Yes. I tried to ignore it in the chat, but there's some live breaking news that has hit the NFL universe. Alex, if you want to go ahead and tell us what that is.
Yeah, Terry McLaurin has requested a trade from the Commanders. Looking for over $30 million a year. Commanders won't match it, and he says, I want out.
Ah, man, that is actually some crazy news. Where do you guys stand with the whole contract negotiations with him? Because obviously he wants more money than DK Metcalf, but when you're talking more money than DK Metcalf, you're getting into the stratosphere of like Justin Jefferson and some other guys that are up there too. And I don't think that a lot of people think that Terry McLaurin is in that same stratosphere. But Bradley, I want to start with you. What is your assessment on Terry McLaurin? Do you think it's fair that he's asking for that much money, or do you think that it's not?
It's hard because, first of all, I'll say I had Terry on my fantasy team last year, so I might like him a little more than the average non-Commanders fan. But so I was rooting for him hard last year. But you look at his stats; he's never even had 1,200 yards in a season. He's at 900, 1,100, 1,000, 1,100, 1,000. Only had 1,000 yards last year. I don't know. Like, I think the Steelers kind of messed it all up with the DK contract because I think they paid DK too much. Because I think Terry, despite being older, I think if you just go just this season, I think I'd probably rather have Terry McLaurin than DK Metcalf. Obviously, if you factor age into it, maybe I'd take DK. So, I probably would not pay him as much as DK, or maybe right around what DK got if I was the Commanders. I mean, Jaden Daniels has 4 more years of his rookie contract. I think you should just pay him. I don't think you want to have just Deebo Samuel and who else do they even have right now? Luke McCaffrey.
Yeah.
I know that they have Jalen Lane. They drafted him out of Tech, one of my guys. But I think you got to pay him, and I think they end up will paying him. I mean, I'd be shocked if he gets traded. Obviously, we know how this whole trade request thing works. We dealt with it a few years ago, so I think they'll end up extending him, and I think he's worth what. Honestly, I think he's worth what he wants. I think it's the Steelers' fault for all of this. Honestly,
I forgot they do have Michael Gallup, and they have Ravens legend Chris Moore as well. The Commanders do. I did not know he was still in the leagues. Good on him. But yeah, this is a great negotiation tactic. They'll probably meet somewhere. He won't get as much as DK. He's about to be 30, I think. So I mean,
yeah.
It sucks that he got paid when you're hitting the 30s, but he's on a 3-year, $68 million contract. So I don't know. It's hard for me kind of to be on his side because nothing's kind of going your way right now. I get you want to get paid, but look at some of the teams that have signed receivers to big contracts. They haven't went on an upwards trend at all. The Dolphins went and got Tyreek. They haven't won a playoff game, since they got him. The Jets go out there, they trade for Devontae Adams, they get Garrett. I mean, who knows with them, but they didn't make the playoffs last year. So it's not looking like when you trade for a big receiver, you do good things. And he can ask Deebo Samuel, he requested a trade, I think, in 21 or 22, got the contract, stayed with him for a couple of years, and now he got traded. So probably just meet somewhere in that middle, get your money, Terry, and stay with the Commanders because they probably have the brightest future in the NFC right now.
Yeah.
Next to Eagles, maybe.
Yeah. I mean, I can definitely agree there. I mean, at the end of the day, you need a more than competent and above average wide receiver like a Terry McLaurin there to help develop Jaden Daniels, as he's going into his second year. Of course, always the question is going to be like, is he going to regress, right? Is he going to take that CJ Stroud dip, right? That we saw CJ take last year. Even though a lot of that was not necessarily his fault.
Yeah.
I mean, CJ Stroud did not have the greatest offensive line at all by any stretch last year. So I think that with or without Terry McLaurin, I think the Commanders would be fine. I think that Jaden Daniels is just that much. He's just that special of a talent. I think he can elevate guys around him. But, for the sake of competing and contending, I mean, the Commanders saw what they have last year. I mean, they were just in the NFC Championship game. They were 1 game away from the Super Bowl, for crying out loud. So it's just like, you have to get this guy. You have to retain this guy and keep this guy healthy, and happy in order to, contend when it comes Super Bowl time. I mean, when it comes playoff time, like that's just what it is for me. But Judge Dredd says here, it's just a show though. They will pay him before the season starts, and he's been at training camp. Yeah, I mean, kind of reminds me of the Lamar Jackson contract situation from a couple of years ago, where he came out and requested a trade, but everybody kind of knew that the Ravens would still most likely get it done with him. And I think that the same thing is going to happen here with the Commanders. So again, we'll continue to monitor that. But I think now it's time for us to go ahead and shift gears out of Ravens training camp, out of this Commanders talk. And let's talk about something a little more fun. You know what I mean? So EA today, right? EA released the Madden player ratings for pretty much all the positions, the top 10 rankings for each position, and I want to go through them, but I want to start with the quarterbacks and kind of get you guys' take on it, because to me, some of it was a little interesting. So I'll just read through it from top to bottom, from first to number 10. We got Josh Allen at number 1 with a 99, of course. Lamar Jackson, 99. We already knew that. Then you have Joe Burrow at 3, 97. Patrick Mahomes, 95. Matthew Stafford, 88. Jared Goff, 87. Justin Herbert, 86. Jalen Hurts, 86. Baker Mayfield, 85. And Jaden Daniels, 85. So, Bradley, I want to start with you on this one. Then we can go to Alex, and we can kind of bounce off each other here, as we all have almost 90 people watching live right now. Thank y'all so much for coming through to this episode of the show. What are your thoughts on the top 10 quarterbacks rated by EA?
Man, so first of all, I definitely understand and agree with Allen and Lamar being 99. I think, if I'm going to nitpick here, I think maybe I'd give Allen a 98, Lamar a 99, but don't let that get out of the Ravens stratosphere, please. But I don't know. Madden is interesting. Did you say Burrow? They have Burrow 4th or 3rd?
Burrow is 3rd at 97. He's
I'm
at
trying
97.
to pull. I think I'm close to pulling it up. So yeah, that's okay. Yeah, here it is. So Stafford at 5 as a 88. I know there's a lot of I'm honestly kind of interested how you guys feel about Stafford. I feel like he's maybe in a 1-game scenario you'd love to have him, but I think he's a little overrated in the national media side of things. I think it's hard to have Jaden higher than that because it's only been 1 year. And while I do think Mahomes is probably the best quarterback in the league, I kind of understand him being a 95, just because he has, honestly, in the regular season, he hasn't been great the past 2 years. This, unlike some of the other positions I think we're going to get into, I don't have as many problems with the quarterbacks here.
Okay, Alex?
As for your Stafford comment, I made a pact in 2022 when he beat the Bengals. I will not say a bad word about Stafford for the rest of my life, and I mean that wholeheartedly. So whatever they give him, I'm cool with it. He saved me from a lifetime of just yapping from defense. With that being said, though, I think he's probably one of the more clutch quarterbacks. I think definitely top 5 when I'm going to a game-winning drive. I want to have him. He can sling a ball like no other. He does get banged up a lot, takes a lot of hits, but somehow at his age, he comes back the next play. Don't know how, but I give him definitely top 8, maybe. Top 5 is pushing it a bit. As for the ratings, I get the first 2. Mahomes at 95, that's fair because, like you said, the past 2 years, he's really living off, and I don't want to sound like that guy because they won a Super Bowl 2 years ago and we're in it last year. I'm not really wowed by him, unfortunately. I'm not really seeing it. It feels like they get put in these really good scenarios and he's not making the crazy plays. He's just getting it to the guy and they're getting, it's not like how he was in 19, 20, 21. That's probably one of the best quarterbacks, probably behind Brady of all time.
Yeah.
But for quarterbacks, I'm not mad right now at any of the ratings and not even playing Madden. So good on them.
I will say real quick, I don't know if Goff should be that high, but that's something I just noticed that too. They have Goff at 87's number 6.
Yeah.
Oh.
I also disagree with that. I think that, and I know you mentioned that Jaden Daniels probably deserves to be where he is at an 85 because it's only been 1 year. But at the same time, I mean, I think that Madden is like a live rating,
Yeah.
It goes by today, like right now. You know what I mean? If we're talking like right now, I would have Jaden Daniels above Baker Mayfield. I would have him above Jalen Hurts in terms of like Madden ratings, right? In terms of all the attributes, the sum of all of Jaden Daniels' good attributes, I think adds up to be more than what Baker Mayfield, Jalen Hurts, arguably even a Justin Herbert has to offer, if you ask me. Jared Goff is in that same category for me. But Matthew Stafford, I think he's pretty fairly rated, 88. He's one of those, again, veteran quarterbacks. You got to tip your cap to him. My dog's barking in the background because there's some loud car going on outside. But I mean, this list, I don't have too much of a problem with it. I just would like Jaden Daniels to be a little bit higher. And I don't think that any of the quarterbacks really deserve a 99. I'd probably put Lamar at a 98 and put Josh at a 97, Burrow and Mahomes at a 96 together. And then the rest of the list is okay for me. But I do want to bring up another list. Hold on. Actually, Alex, take it away. Let me get my dog out of here.
Yeah. All right. While we're talking about Madden, let's just talk about another one. Uh, Running backs. We can get there. Saquon Barkley, the only 99. Derrick Henry, a 98 overall. Like you mentioned, he was getting the washed allegations after one game last year, and for him to put up the season he did and looking somehow even the same, if not better, this year. Just a compliment to the work he puts in and how he treats his body and what he does for it. So 98 for him. Hopefully he plays like that this year and can crack that 2,000 yards and get in that Adam Sandler movie.
Yeah, this one I think I have less issues with than I did with the quarterbacks. I think maybe Gibbs should just be a tad higher. I don't think McCaffrey should be that high. Sutton mentioned how it is sort of like what's going on right now, and McCaffrey played in 3 or 4 games last year. I think he should be a bit lower. But I also, this might be controversial, but I do think Saquon deserves a 99 for sure. Because, he did have a little bit better of a year than Derrick Henry did. And he also, won the Super Bowl too.
Yeah. I can definitely agree with that, especially his threat up receiving up the backfield. I think that's kind of what takes him over Henry for me.
Yeah.
Sutton, you there?
Yes, I am. I am here. I'm here. I was just trying to add this to the screen for us. Oh, nope. I won't let me put it in there. Nice. Okay, cool. Whatever. Give me a second. I'm trying to add this to the screen so we can see the rest of them, because I really want to show the safeties. The safeties was really a big one for me. Alex, if you want to go ahead and run through it while I try to put it up on the screen.
Yeah, we can talk about it real quick. So the safeties, kind of a surprise to me. Jesse Bates, number 1 with a 95 rating. Derwin James, a 93. Xavier McKinney, 93. Buda Baker, 92. Minka Fitzpatrick, 92. Antoine Winfield Jr., 91. Kyle Hamilton, 90. Kyle Hamilton is the 7th best safety according to Madden NFL 26. Yes, the Kyle Hamilton. That is certainly a choice, to leave it at that. And he was the top safety in ESPN's poll from players, GMs, and all that, and he's 7th in Madden.
Yeah, I have actually a ton of issues with this. So I seriously don't think any of the 3 of us are too biased, honestly. I think Hamilton should be minimum 96, right? Like maybe a little bit higher. And then also not even so first of all, the Kyle Hamilton thing is egregious, in my opinion, to have him as the number 7 safety. Most media pundits who, are not biased by a certain team will say Hamilton's the best safety in the league. So having it at 7 is kind of crazy. And then I think Kirby Joseph, in my opinion, is the 2nd best safety in the league, and they have him at 8, right behind Kyle Hamilton. I'd say the 3 best safeties in the league, in my opinion, are Hamilton, Kirby Joseph, and Xavier McKinney, and it is just not even close on this list I'm looking at right now.
Yeah, a lot of running off a name bias feels like that's what happened with Bates and Derwin James. We're not 2021 anymore. It's we're in 2025 now, so I definitely can get you there with that one. Harrison Smith at 10 at 88. Maybe I don't watch enough Vikings games. I'm not a big NFC enjoyer, but I don't know. That's definitely crazy to me. Like you said, Kirby Joseph at a 90 and Harrison Smith at 88. This guy Kirby Joseph was every freaking week felt like he had to pick.
Yeah,
and just making plays. So that's on them. And while you're pulling that up, I'll talk about some Ravens. Marlon Humphrey as the 7th highest rated cornerback. Above him, Stingley, Ramsey, McDuffie, Sauce Gardner, Christian Gonzalez, Patrick Surtain. Christian Gonzalez number 2 overall as cornerback, and Kyle Hamilton 7th safety. Make it make sense.
Yeah.
That's all I'm asking.
Yeah, I can't find the corners right now. I think Humphrey at 7 is I'm okay with, but you said Gonzalez is number 2 for corners. That's pretty crazy too. So,
and while you're getting that up to Ravens, Roquan Smith, 2nd highest rated linebacker at 94. Fred Warner, number 1. I have absolutely 0 problems with that whatsoever. Mm-hmm. And then Nnamdi Madubuike is the 6th highest rated defensive tackle at 93, tied with Vita Vea. And then only ones above him, Cam Hayward, Derek Brown from the Panthers, Dexter Lawrence, and then Chris Jones. Chris Jones and Sexy Dexy at 97 overall.
Wow. I think I agree with the Madubuike spot as well.
Definitely agree with the Madubuike spot. Go ahead, Alex. My bad.
I'm looking here at linemen. No Ravens crack the top 10, so no Raven linemen are 93 overall or better.
They ranked long snappers. I don't know how it's possible to do that, but
yeah, I don't see it.
There's an 81 overall long snapper, and it goes all the way down to the 60s. So,
oh wow,
I don't know what the metrics they use for that are, but
yeah. And then for tight ends, Andrews is 91 overall. They have McBride, Kelsey, and Kittle higher than him. I'm not gonna fight that. Andrews should be higher than McBride, but the way it ended, I understand. I get it.
Where's Bowers? Is Bowers close?
Bowers is 90.
Interesting.
Yeah. And then Laporta 86, Goddard 87, Hawkinson 88, and Njoku 89. And Njoku 89 is interesting to me because like he only plays well against I feel like the Ravens and Steelers. Like any other team, he doesn't do anything. Like I pick up him in fantasy, nothing. Plays against the Steelers, he gets a touchdown. That's a conversation for another day.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to actually ask about, and by the way, for some reason, like the software is like tripping. It's not letting me bring it up on the screen right now. So I wanted to just kind of talk about it. Roquan Smith, I know he is number 2. He's rated number 2. Bradley, what is your current assessment on Roquan Smith? What do you want to see him bring to the Ravens this year? Because I think for a lot of us, we know like how good he is in terms of like, run stuffing and production and tackles, things like that. But what do you think is kind of like the missing piece from the glue in the middle of the front seven and the secondary? What do you think is missing from those linebackers?
It's tough. I'll start with, as someone who tries to watch as much all 22 film as I can, inside linebacker is the toughest position to evaluate, in my opinion. Like, because you don't know what their assignment are. Obviously, you don't know really that for anyone, but it's the toughest to know what their assignment is and what they're supposed to do on any given play. So I'll start there. I've seen some people say, and I'll say I agree with this, I think Roquan Smith's best year here so far was 2022. Spot without him, but we didn't see that same level of play. Like, we were spoiled with that linebacker duo. Like, Roquan playing the mic and one of the best, if not the best, pass rushing inside linebacker in the game. Like that, it was insane just to have that duo. And I think that's almost more of what is missing than like Roquan maybe playing bad. So I think whether it's Teddy Buchanan or Trenton Simpson, if one of them can start to play really well, I mean, Trenton Simpson is as talented as they get. If he can play well, I think we could sort of get some of that spark back in the middle of the field. Like you said, Sutton, it's kind of been missing.
Yeah, absolutely. And like in the playoffs, like I would love to see our linebackers flying all over the field, flying to the ball, flying downfield. We need some big statement plays, I think in the playoffs. That's another thing. If you're not forcing turnovers, instill fear, on defense. Like let these guys know that like we are here to play. Like it's going to be hard-nosed physical football for 4 straight quarters. That was something that Ray Lewis was absolutely impeccable at. That was a huge skill of his, just going out there and intimidating the other side. Like that's something that I feel like we've been missing. It feels like in a lot of ways the Ravens defense gets punked a little bit. You know what I mean? I can look back to that 2023 Chiefs game in the AFC Championship game, right? It did not look pretty. It was not pretty. You know what I mean? Like guys were retaliating emotionally and we did not look the same at all. It was very uncharacteristic of what a Ravens defense is supposed to look like. Granted, they played particularly well in terms of like points allowed. I mean, the Ravens defense, they do a lot of bending and not breaking in the playoffs, right? But in the playoffs, we all know it comes down to the turnover battle, right? And that's one thing that I'm looking for these linebackers to be have their noses all over the field, just hunting the turnover. Turnover hunting in the playoffs is going to be absolutely paramount. Bradley, I don't know if you know the stat, but whatever team wins the turnover battle in the playoffs, they win the game 80% of the time. And that's no exaggeration. Like the exact number is 79.8% of the time.
Unless you're the Bills. The Bills are that 20%.
Yeah, pretty much. But the Ravens, we've gotta actually, go with the odds on it. So it's just that's really what it boils down to me. I love what you said about Roquan Smith. Needs to kind of like take that next step in terms of being that fearsome linebacker, because I feel like sometimes he can go a little bit quiet. turnover culture, creating a turnover culture, says D-Wiz. I think that's huge. It's absolutely huge. And I think that's something that they're trying to instill this year. And they've been talking about it a lot.
Yeah. And that's why you get a guy like Jair Alexander, like Pagano, who we've
Yes.
seen has been instilling punching the ball out drills. They come off of the sled and go and punch the ball out immediately. It's stuff like that. That one, movement you do in training camp can win you a game in the playoffs, and that's kind of what we've been lacking, what we've been asking for years now. So let's hope it pays off, and hopefully we're there in January. Can't count our chickens before they hatch.
Yeah.
You got something, Bradley? You about to say something?
I think there's something to be said maybe about having players in the playoffs who haven't been here for the past collapses. And, you mentioned that with Jair Alexander. Like they haven't been a part of playoff collapses over the past couple of years, right? And like maybe if Mike Green and Malachi Starks can, I know you don't want to rely on rookies, but like those three guys on defense together, if Green and Starks can be, solid contributors by the end of the regular season, along with Jair being healthy, that's three guys playing a massive role on defense who haven't experienced those past couple of losses and might be playing a little more free in those games too.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I didn't really see it that way. I mean, like, yeah, these guys don't have that same monkey on their back, the same chip on their shoulder. They're coming into the situation fresh. And I like the fact that Jair Alexander has already been making waves in the locker room as a guy who is just like very high energy, right? You need that fresh, new energy to kind of get that shake off the feeling and the bad vibes of what happened last year. You know what I mean? Like you need a guy like that in the locker room. So just another reason why Jair Alexander was probably my favorite offseason acquisition. If I had to rank them in terms of offseason acquisitions this year, I'd probably say Jair number 1. I'd probably go Mike Green number 2. And then third, I would go DeAndre Hopkins. Where would you guys rank them?
Ooh. I think Jair has to be my 1 just because you know what you're getting with him. Can I put coaches in there? Because I'd probably have Pagano in my top 3.
Yeah.
I'd probably have him somewhere. I'll go Jair 1, Mike Green 2, and then I'll go Pagano 3.
I apologize. I can't remember his name. The Ravens secondary coach that they hired for 2024 was like a flunk, right? And
yeah.
So I think they brought in the guy from the Chiefs. He's a young guy, and then Pagano. So I like that you mentioned that, Alex. For my top 3, I think I'd go with Starks number 1, just because he was a guy I watched a ton of, in the winter and early spring. And I think he could be a really good safety for the next decade for the Ravens. I think I'd go with Jair at number 2 and Mike Green at number 3. But, I really like the pick of Pagano. I didn't really think about that.
Yeah. You bring up the secondary coach. I guess you heard that him and Marcus Williams were like beefing all year last year.
Yeah.
You can believe with that. You can get out of here.
Yeah.
Both of them can go. Honestly.
Yeah.
No need for that. But okay, yeah, I think that actually wraps up our topics in this episode of the Purple Rain podcast. Again, we want to give a huge shout out and thank you to our guy Bradley, aka Lamarszn from the Charm City Sideline Podcast. Huge round of applause for our guy. He was awesome tonight on this episode of the show. Make sure you go subscribe to the Charm City Sideline Podcast. We've made it very easy for you. It's in the description. The link is in the description. You can just click on that. Go hit the subscribe button. They're going to be coming out with Ravens content all year long. I'm sure I'll make another guest appearance or 2 or 3 on their show throughout the season. It was a lot of fun kind of progressing through. I think I went on their show maybe every once a month or something like that. I felt like I was like Nick Wright or somebody making a guest appearance on the show or something. It was a lot of fun.
Don't compare yourself to Nick Wright. Don't do Nick Wright. You can pick anybody else but Nick.
Okay. I'll go like Chris Broussard or something like that. Somebody less. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
But no, it was a lot of fun, man. Thank you so much for coming on to the show. And where else can they find you at?
Yeah, so I appreciate you guys so much for having me on. Like we mentioned, I've known both of you guys on Instagram for a while, and we've sort of figured out that both of us had podcasts and we can sort of collab in this space as well. Lamarszn on Instagram, go check it out. Charm City Sideline on Instagram, and then of course Charm City Sideline on YouTube. Ravens podcast. You'll see Sutton's face on there a lot, like he mentioned, and that's where you can find my stuff.
Absolutely. Good stuff, man. I see the chat giving the farewell. They're saying they're going to chime in to the Charm City
Thank you,
Sideline
guys.
Podcast. Big shout out to our guy Bradley, aka Lamarszn, on Instagram. Make sure you follow him on Instagram as well. And big shout out to the Rain Gang, everybody who came out and supported this episode 325 of PRP. There's a lot more where this came from. So make sure you stay locked in, tuned in, whatever you want to call it. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell down below as well, so you can be notified whenever we go live, right? So Mondays and Thursdays, obviously, we're going live at 5 or 6:30 p.m. Eastern time, and then throughout the day, I'll be live in certain spots here and there, depending on which news drops, things like that. So make sure you stay locked into the Purple Rain Podcast YouTube channel. Again, my name is SuttonDef. You can follow me on Twitter or Instagram at SuttonDef. You can find the guy over there on the far right on Instagram at SimplyAS10.prod and on Twitter at SimplyAS10. But with that being said, I'm going to let my guy Alex take us out.
Thank you for coming through to this lovely episode of the Purple Rain Podcast. As always, stay positive, test negative.
Yes, yes, yes. And never, ever, ever forget, even on the rainiest of days, to call God. This has been episode 325 of PRP. We're going to catch you guys in the next one. Peace.